Thank you very much. Senator Cornyn?
Thank you to all the witnesses for being here today and sharing your perspective. I'd like to start with you, Ms. Basham. You've talked about the scourge, what I would call the evil of human trafficking. And you described the transit or the path of many of the victims of human trafficking from their home country up to the border. And then, of course, we've talked a little bit about how many of these children are unaccounted for now once they've been placed with sponsors in the country. Do you consider the status quo compassionate or humane?
So I can't speak to current immigration. I'm not going to speak today to current immigration policy, but I will tell you that currently in the United States, there are far too many children who are falling through the cracks. That is very obvious. That's something we can all agree with. So I think there are absolutely, when it comes to compassionate responses, the most compassionate is to make sure that every child has a loving family. And very clearly, most of the children coming, or a lot of the children coming across the border, it's a nightmarish experience, to put it mildly. And that's where I'll leave it with that.
Well, I wonder, why would we expect any different outcome when the people who are mainly in charge of immigration policy in this country are the transnational criminal organizations that get rich smuggling people from their home country, perhaps across the border into the United States. This is a huge money-making proposition. As someone pointed out to me years ago, the cartels are really commodity agnostic, and I found that to be a strange way to describe it. But basically, they said they don't care about smuggling people or money, anything that's going to make them money, or drugs, I should have said. They don't care whether they're smuggling people or drugs or anything else, weapons for that matter. All they care about is the money. And Ms. Reese, I know you've spent a lot of time looking at the current policies, but I would wonder if you could talk a little more about what you see as the consequences of the current policy with regard to the welfare of these children once they are placed with sponsors, and the fact that there are no follow-on services that are routinely available. In fact, the administration doesn't even know where these children are. Could you talk about the welfare of the child or these children?
Yes, in addition to the journey being horrific, as has been described by many, conditions are not necessarily better once they're here. And due to the volume of unaccompanied children among the volume of other illegal aliens coming to the U.S., HHS is releasing them very quickly. They've lowered their standards for vetting. And so some dangerous sponsors are taking them in, and we are seeing that HHS is not able to make contact with many of these unaccompanied children. 85,000 is a number that has been cited. And if it is their responsibility for the care of these children, at the very least, it is key that enough information is shared and followed up on by HHS, by ORR. But what you have to go upstream, and what is causing this is the very strong pull factors for unaccompanied minors to either be sent here or come on their own. If in the case of some older teens, if you turn off that magnet, you resolve a lot of these downstream effects.
So you mentioned the pull factors, which is what the Border Patrol has routinely told me. And of course, coming from Texas with a 1,200-mile common border, I've spent a lot of time along the border talking to the people who deal with this public health and safety crisis, this humanitarian crisis on a regular basis. But they talk in terms of the push factors, which are things like violence and poverty. We all understand why those would push people to take this risky avenue of submitting themselves to criminal organizations to be smuggled into another country. But talk a little more about the pull factors. These are things that the current policy does to actually make it easier for the cartels to smuggle people into the United States, and actually it tells people, in effect, that we've got the welcome mat out, so please come.
Right. When the border has been thrown open, when Secretary Mayorkas has said we will not return unaccompanied minors, when whether minors or family units are then released into the communities of the U.S., those are the strongest pull factors for more illegal immigration. The president, the vice president, the secretary can tell people don't come, but it is the results that are the strongest pull factor. When people south of the border learn that their friend, their family member got into the U.S., went to their location of choice in the U.S., is able to work, et cetera, that's the strongest message that goes back to both the cartels, the smugglers, and then more future illegal aliens.
Thank you.
Senator Whitehouse.